I really can't tell you how excited I am that you've made the life-changing decision to listen to this program. I promise by the end of this series, you'll have the tools you need to dramatically transform your future for the better. But before we get started, I want to let you know that I want to come across natural, passionate, and real to you. So if this program doesn't come across as studio perfect, know that I'm speaking to you from the heart. Is that okay with you? Great. So let's get going. But let's first acknowledge here the real challenge that we all face, which is most of us are taught, or better stated, conditioned, to live to work, not to work to live. You know what I mean? Most of us wake up every day for the sole purpose of going to work, period. Then we come home, dog-tired, eat dinner, share a few words if we're lucky with our family, and settle down to an evening of TV. Robots just getting through the day, rather than living a higher quality life and getting what I call from the day. That said, most of us robots spend about the first 20 years or so of our lives on what I call the academic assembly line in school, for the sole purpose of graduating just to get a job that pays the monthly bills, so we don't have too much month at the end of the money. Ever been there? I know I have. And the sad truth is, we're not taught in those first 20 years how to design a life, how to be happy, how to turn resistance into resolve, to get results we really want in order to live a meaningful life. We weren't taught the art of living an inspired life. So instead, we were prepared to continue on the academic assembly line for another few years, like through college, for the sole purpose of getting a job to pay those monthly bills. Oh yeah, and those college loans. See my point? And as a result, the shocking statistics really tell the whole story, a story that provides clear evidence that up to 80 or 90% of working Americans are dissatisfied with their jobs. And you know, that's a lot of people. And think about this. Since about half of our waking hours during a work week, at least, is spent on the job and in work-related activities like commuting, taking work home, unwanted overtime, and weekend work, it's safe to say that if we aren't happy with our jobs, we probably won't be happy in other areas of our lives. Why? Because everything affects everything else. Here's another challenge society faces. Most of the focus, when it comes to employment figures, is on the millions of people who are unemployed and underemployed, but very little attention is given to the millions of people who are unhappily employed, doing what they don't want to do, dealing with way too much stress, working for bosses they don't want to really be working for, and being overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. And this makes living a happy, dream-filled, and inspired life pretty much impossible, right? And here's one last thought about all this. Pharmaceutical companies, especially those manufacturing antidepressants, are cashing in big time on our collective unhappiness. The more unhappy we are, the more money drug companies and healthcare providers make. Can you begin to see that so many segments of society depend on our collective unhappiness? They're betting that we will continue to focus on our jobs and careers first and foremost and won't have time or the energy to focus in on our lives. So what I am suggesting here is a two-part challenge. Most of us have not identified specifically how we want to live our lives and what makes us happy. We must do that. And two, most of us have not identified specifically what makes us happy in a job so we can live a happy life. And, we must do that as well. So here's what I am suggesting we do. Change the status quo. Why? Because most of us have played by the rules, right? That have been established by others. And as a result, we've underachieved, settled for less, or are just plain unhappy. But you and I can change this at any time. once you and I make the decision and the commitment to do so. And I have to assume you're still with me now because you're one who is ready to simply obliterate the status quo and play the game of life by your rules. So I suggest we get started. Now, keep in mind that we are now changing the rules. And the new rule is that we are going to work at a job for only one reason. And that's because that job will give us the life we want. Because that job will enrich our life. Because that job will make us happy. And the first step is that we must identify, design, and envision the kind of life we want. You see, if we are going to work in order to live a better life, we first must clearly define what that better life looks like. Does this make sense? Okay, time out. Let's use common sense for a moment. Is it possible to build a house without first seeing it finished in our minds? And the answer is, of course not. We first have to envision the house completed. We have to see it in our mind's eye and then create the blueprints required to build the house. You can't build a house, a skyscraper, or a life without blueprints first. And blueprints come from an intangible vision first. We have to see it first before we build it, and then we can build it. The same is true for your life. You must first envision a happy and fulfilling life for you and for your family and those you love. Then from that vision, the blueprints can be created so you can begin to build or create it. And the reality for most people is they don't know what they want. So they have to settle for what they get. So that you can never settle for less again in any area of your life, you first must know exactly what you want. Dream it. Define it. Have the desire and the courage to acknowledge it. They say, that you only live once, but that's not true. That's false. You live every day. Here's the key. You only die once. So I encourage you, challenge you to dream big and live large. And perhaps the best way I can demonstrate this to you is through my own experiences. So let me, for the next few minutes, share with you my story. I was fired by one of my best friends in 1992 at the age of 39. This is when my own personal life transformation began to take place, when I was fired by a best friend. Now, to make things worse, my friend didn't have the courage to fire me. He conveniently went on a business trip to Canada and had his secretary perform the ceremony. So there I was at age 39, fired by my best friend's secretary. And yes, my emotions ran wild. Anger, humiliation, a real sense of hopelessness and fear. You name it, I had it. I was way behind on my big mouth promises to myself and to my family, a failure in my own eyes. And worst of all, I had a 3-year-old son who must have been asking the question, how did I wind up with this clown for a father? I was 39 and broke financially. Not destitute, mind you, but broke. But I was broken emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And here's the thing. I had no excuses. I come from a loving family. I'm the oldest of 3 sons, was a good athlete, half decent looking, I'm told. Had lots of friends who graduated from college, and I graduated with them. In fact, I graduated on the dean's list. And I've always been a hard worker who really loves to work. I had dozens of jobs as a youngster, including 3 paper routes, mowing lawns in the summer, shoveling snow in the winter. I'm from Boston. From an early age, I was always working because I love to work. But I had one problem. I never knew what I wanted to do for a living. I never had that dream job or dream career. My brother always wanted to be a doctor. I just never knew what I wanted to be. So I just followed the rules and went to college and graduated and got married and took a management trainee job out of college with a security guard company for 10 cents over minimum wage. It was 1976 then, and we were deep in a recession with long gas lines, hostages in Iran, and still recovering from a president's resignation. But I worked hard at my job, and 6 months later, I was the manager for the company's largest account, Honeywell. Within a year, I worked my way up to security director of 350 people, and then at age 26, resigned and started my own law enforcement company in the uniform business. And that was a great success, and I sold it for a stunning profit. Thinking I was the next Donald Trump, I started another company, and that was a stunning failure. I came close to bankruptcy. I remember owing Motorola about $15,000 and getting a letter from them stating that if I missed just one payment, they'd take my house. Well, I fought hard and survived, and between the ages of 30 and 38, I worked for a few jobs that just didn't turn me on. And then my friend asked me to go to work for him as his director of marketing in his automotive-related company. That was 1991. A year later, well, you know, fired. How could I possibly be in this place, I asked myself over and over and over again. I never in my wildest dreams imagined myself a failure. I had always succeeded in everything I did. This was beyond painful. Shortly after I was fired, a friend, no, not the one who fired me, suggested I needed a coach. Sarcastically, I replied, what kind of coach? A basketball coach? A baseball coach? A shuffleboard coach? Remember, this was 1992, and I never knew that there were such things then as success coaches or career coaches. Anyway, we were traveling 8 hours by car from South Florida to Hilton Head when my friend inserted a 15-minute cassette tape, that's right, a cassette tape, into the cassette player. So, yes, you now know we're talking about 1992. And I had no choice. We were going like 85 miles an hour, and I was trapped. I had to listen to this cassette. But something totally unexpected happened. It didn't take but like 5 minutes, and I was captivated. I guess the cliche, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, is true, because there was something about what this guy was saying and how he said it that struck a nerve. After 15 minutes of listening to him, I had something that had been missing in my life for a long time, and that something was hope. I didn't realize it at the time, but this ultimately became the 15 minutes that changed my whole life. Mind you, I said my life, not my career. Fast forward, I took my friend's advice and hired a coach. Not just any coach. I hired Tony Robbins. Tony helped me identify the kind of life I wanted to live, and then, once defined, I identified my career calling. I got to tell you, I can't explain exactly how this all happened. How does any idea infiltrate our minds and hearts? We give it time. We give it space. Here's the deal. I was excited about the life I could design for myself. I could see it in my mind's eye. I could feel it in my heart. This level of excitement is what really propelled me to work harder and smarter, to define a career or land a job that would provide me with the life that I envisioned for myself. Like going to the moon, I envisioned getting there first. Then I found the way to get there. Does this make sense to you? It's not about a job, though to you and me back then, I thought it was. It's about how our jobs enrich our lives. I envisioned the house I wanted to live in, the car I wanted to drive, the life I wanted to give to my family. I first saw my life very, very clearly and loved what I saw. Then I focused on my career, a job that would provide me with the life I was now committed to. I discovered what I enjoyed doing was marketing and found a unique opportunity, helping job seekers market themselves in a highly motivational, confident, and process-oriented way. I studied. I did a ton of research and took massive action, like 16 hours a day, and it was easy, even though I was in the dark much of the time. Like that caterpillar, I weaved my own cocoon and was in the dark. I put myself in the dark. I didn't know when or how I would get out, but I knew when I did, I'd never, ever be the same again. I was committed. You see, I was confident and disciplined because I had hope. I had faith. Now, I've got to remind you, I still didn't know how this would all come together. I just had an abundance of faith because I had an abundance of passion, because the vision was so strong. Now, here's why working on my career in the dark 16 hours a day was easy. First, I had a clear picture, as I said, of the kind of life I wanted, in my mind's eye and in my heart. Second, though, I knew the 16 hours were an investment in my future. I realized that no one else was investing in my future. No one else was going to make it happen for me. I realized that if it was going to be, it was up to me. Soon, not instantly, but soon, I co-founded a National Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches, created certification programs, and wrote a manuscript on how to design a life and then land a good job. 9 months and 32 rejections later, I think you can make a baby in that amount of time, McGraw-Hill gave me a shot. And in July 2014, my 12th McGraw-Hill book, 5 Steps to Rapid Employment, was released. Soon, I coached thousands and thousands of people to achieve their goals and objectives over the past 20 years or so, have addressed thousands of people around the globe in live and online presentations, and have touched literally millions of people who have read my books and who have been coached by people I've coached. Now listen, I don't tell you this to impress you. I tell this to impress upon you that I wouldn't be working in my profession. I wouldn't be here speaking to you now if I hadn't been fired by one of my best friends, if I hadn't invested in a coach, and most importantly, if I hadn't first envisioned the life I wanted to live and invested in myself. You see, that vision provided the fuel, the energy, the motivation, the discipline, and the unwavering commitment that I had to land a job that would give me the kind of life I really wanted. And for me, it was a job where I created this for myself. It's my own enterprise. One more thing I want to share with you about my story. Success is not a magic formula reserved for a privileged few. I am not unique, exceptional, or the exception. My success and happiness is a result of committing to a formula reserved for anyone who wants to achieve an abundance of success and happiness. Certainly, if I can do it, you can do it. I was introduced to a new set of rules that I was never taught before. Yes, it was uncomfortable embracing these rules. These are rules that I had never been taught before and that I wasn't used to. And I wasn't sure how they'd work. But hey, I was more uncomfortable living by the old rules, 39 and broke, fired by a best friend, an embarrassment to my family, a place called disaster. So my whole life, I was always thinking job, career, dream job, and seeking the answer to that age-old question, what do I want to be when I grow up? I never gave much thought as to how I wanted to live my life, how I wanted to be happy. So see, here's the key. I knew I had to change my thinking. That's what my coach taught me. I mean, I'm a nice guy, a hard worker, motivated, and driven to succeed. But here's the key. I was fortunate enough to have found someone who introduced me to a whole new set of rules, beliefs, a new way of thinking, to live life by. And I was determined to give life my very best shot. Win, lose, or draw. I was determined never to settle for less than I could be. And these new rules, this new way of thinking, has worked for thousands, millions of people who are just plain unwilling to struggle anymore, playing by the old rules. They're sort of sick and tired of being sick and tired. And once you complete this program, I know you'll feel and experience authentic hope, just like I did, and see your exciting future clearly, and then pursue and create your own destiny. I know you'll be on your way to success, achievement, happiness, and an extraordinary life. I mean, what else do we have to do in the short time we're on this planet? So let's begin. Take a moment and write this down. Please, let me say this because it's so important here. Writing things down is essential for any positive change to occur. I have to assume you're not listening to this program to make minor tweaks in your life. The only successful way to build or renovate a house is to write down a whole new set of blueprints, and the only way to rebuild and renovate your life is to write down a whole new set of rules, principles that will become the blueprints for your new and exciting future. So you can begin your notes by writing this down. I can work hard every day to make others happy and to help them achieve their goals. Or I can work hard every day so I can be happy and achieve my own goals. I'll give you a minute to write this down. It's really, really important. Let's start by learning a couple of things that successful and happy people know. First, they are grateful for what they have in pursuit of what they want. Successful people understand that success and achievement is not attracted by negativity, a defeatist attitude, or a sense of pessimism. They are grateful for what they have in pursuit of what they desire. And know this: success and happiness don't necessarily walk hand in hand. I'm sure you can name many successful people who are just plain miserable. This is because they bought into the wrong formula. John says, I'll be happy once I become successful. You see, that's the formula most people live by, right? But it doesn't work. If only I had more money, Leah says, then I'd be happy. But you see, that's not the formula for happiness either. If only I had a good John, Juan says, then I'd be happy. Again, wrong formula. This belief or formula is the problem. They got the if this, then that backwards. If John is first happy, then he'll become successful. If Leah is happy first, then she'll attract the money. If Juan is happy first, then he'll land a good job. Look, a person who is sick will recover quicker if she first has a good attitude. A person seeking a loving relationship will attract the right person only with a positive attitude. You see, people with a positive outlook on life who are grateful for what they have recover from financial and natural disasters and build their lives quicker and easier than those who are constantly griping, those who are constantly ungrateful. My point is, negativity is only defeated by a positive and courageous attitude. Henry Ford was right. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right. If you think positive thoughts, you'll attract positive outcomes. If you think negative thoughts, well, you get the point. So here's my challenge to you. Put out positive energy, always. Here's another new rule to play the game of life by. To be happy, to be successful, to achieve abundance. Acknowledge that success is born out of resistance. Success is born out of resistance. I mean failure, setbacks, obstacles. You know, adversity. You must see frustration, resistance, rejection, and setbacks not as enemies, but as allies. The baby didn't walk the first time she tried. She fell over and over again. But you see, each time she tried to walk and fell, her muscles were getting stronger, and gradually, but inevitably, she walked. So when you envision the life you want to live and, like the baby, have the desire and courage to make the attempt when you fall, know that you're just strengthening your resolve muscles, your creativity muscles, your resourcefulness muscles, and gradually but inevitably you will prevail. And here's another thing. You and I know that there are a lot of negative voices out there. Jay, you'll never be able to do that. Jay, you're crazy. That's impossible. You'll never get there. Jay, that's not the way to do this. You need to do it this way. You see what I mean? All those gloom and doom, negative, unsupporting, jealous, pessimistic, cynical voices, hey, even well-intentioned voices that lead us in the wrong direction or discourage us. And often this leads to our own inner voice of self-doubt. But the new rules suggest we ignore these negative voices, hang up on them. No, I promise you they won't go away. They never do. But we can drown them out. We can spend less time with them. And be aware, negative voices come from the TV, the media, billboards, and places we least expect. So it's important that we turn off these negative voices. So, if you're ready to begin designing a most extraordinary life, one that Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite people, says is over the top, let's get started. I promise you, there's plenty of room at the top. It's the bottom that's crowded. Okay, listen closely because you're about to uncover the deceptively simple principle or formula that 99% of the people miss. What drives action? What drives action? The answer? Your thoughts. Not just any thought. Ones with 3 important characteristics: clarity, passion, and positive expectations. If you're clear on what you want, if you have a passion to achieve it and believe you can, you'll take massive action and achieve it. No problem. So I'm going to teach you how to get really clear and excited about what you want to achieve. When you can envision a future that is exciting, when you can envision a future that is compelling, your mind, your intellectual genius will figure out a way to make it happen. I promise you. That's how we got to the moon and back. That's how the Wright brothers invented the plane and why you have a smartphone. See it in your mind's eye. Believe it in your heart. And then you'll achieve it in your life. I promise you, when you have a burning desire, passion, to achieve something significant, your mind will go to work on the how. The key is not to worry about the how at the beginning, but to be clear on the why. The why, or reasons, is your motivation. Perhaps you've heard the story about the fox and the rabbit. The fox bragged to all his foxy friends that he could run faster than anyone. The next day, around lunchtime, he saw a rabbit and chased it, while his friends just looked on and watched the chase. And sure enough, the rabbit got away. The fox returned to his friends, who were, of course, mocking him. "Yes, I didn't catch the rabbit," the fox admitted, "but remember, he was running for his life. I was only running for my lunch." The point of the story is that incentive is all important when it comes to self-motivation. We even have an expression that validates this. Where there's a will, incentive or desire, there's a way, the how. So what's your will? What would an amazing life look to you? How would it look like? Can you see it? And why would you want to achieve it? How will it feel if you identify and achieve the kind of life you really want? How happy and proud would you be? What kind of hero would you be to yourself and to your family? When you have a deep desire, that passion to live an inspired life, you'll begin to find the way and do extraordinary things to make it happen. And you see, human beings are the only life form on earth that can do this. So why is it that so few people never come close to reaching their potential? Before I begin walking you through a life-changing process, let's just try for a moment and answer this question. Over the years of working with thousands of people, I've come to realize that fear is the primary enemy to success. Fear is the major reason most people avoid examining their life, believing in themselves, and creating a compelling future. What if I fail to achieve my desires and my dreams? What if I am rejected? What if I am ridiculed by others? What if I don't know how to achieve the success I want? Where do I start? What if I run out of money? You see, it's the what-ifs that inhibit even the attempt. But let me ask you this. What if you came to the end of your life and discovered you didn't take your best shot? What if you came to the end of your life and you didn't give life your very best effort? What if you came to the end of your life and wished you had your life to live over again? Shouldn't that be the greatest fear? Shouldn't that be the greatest what if that becomes your positive and inspirational ally? I know it has been for me. When fear plays a starring role in the theater of your mind, courage is the antidote that kicks fear right off the stage. And by the way, courage is innate. Think about the courage babies have when trying to walk. They don't recognize or realize or accept failure. When they fall, they get right back up. Frustrated as hell, yes. Sometimes in tears, yes. Sometimes embarrassed, we think. But quitting is not in their genes. That's why you don't see a whole lot of adults walking around on all fours. Because back then we were courageous and didn't accept or even acknowledge fear. So how do you want to walk through your life? Tall and bold, determined and courageous? You begin by allowing yourself to think big, dream big, and have positive expectations. Expectations determine achievement. Your expectations. What do you expect of yourself? Next, expect resistance. Expect fear. Expect setbacks. They're a part of life, just like negativity is part of a battery. Isn't there a negative part of a battery? There's the positive part and there's a negative part. It takes both, the positive and the negative, to create the juice of the battery. And it requires a positive and negative to create an extraordinary life. You need them both. The key here is not to label positive or negative. If something good comes from something bad, how can that something bad be bad? Think about that. At the end of this video series, I'm going to give you a bonus strategy to overcome the negative stuff, because I don't want you to miss out on another minute of living an exceptional, happy, and inspired life. Okay, so now it's time to have some fun. In the next video, you will work on your first fun exercise. See you then.